Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing SETI Space Agencies from CGE. SETI Space Agencies is the expansion to SETI, a game that came out, I want to say, last year? I think last year. A game that came out that was generally very well received. I give it a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was incredibly well done as far as the way everything slowly moves towards just like your engine and tableau expanding. But I did have the main criticism being that it just runs too long. When I compare it to other games that do similar things, I think it is on the longer side. SETI Space Agencies comes out and it does several things for the game, including cutting a full round out of the game. So, to give you a general overview, and I don't have the whole game set up, I do have some of the expansion components. I'll walk you through some of what the new alien races do. I guess you could skip that timestamp if you don't want spoilers. We'll get to that soon enough. But SETI Space Agencies does a few things. Number one, it adds 3 new aliens to the game. So you now have 3 new aliens. That's the way SETI works in general, is every game you're going to have 2 aliens from the 5 in the base game, and now it's from the 8 in total, that you could add to the game. And those aliens are going to add a flavor or a twist to the game once they are discovered, because effectively you're scanning for life. You're trying to find traces of life, and once you do so, you're able to unlock a new alien race. So twice during the game, you'll unlock a new alien race, and that will bring new things to the game, new ways to interact with elements you were interacting with before, new ways to get cool new cards, ways to get points. A whole bunch of fun things happen when the aliens get unlocked, and you don't know which aliens are coming until you hit those points. So the first thing a Space Agency does is it adds 3 new alien races, taking you from 5 to 8. Number 2, it reduces, it gets rid of a round. It gets rid of an entire round of the game. So now, instead of having a 5-round game of SETI, you play a 4-round game of SETI. That hopefully addresses the game length, although I will get to that in my thoughts soon. But it basically reduces a round of the game, making it a faster experience. But, because it's important, if you just remove a round, that means you do less stuff. That's not fun. I mean, I guess it's still fun, but it's not as much fun. So they compensate for that by giving you corporations and starter cards, kickoff cards, effectively. Think of this as Terraforming Mars prelude to Terraforming Mars. This is SETI Space Agencies to SETI. You have corporations now that give players asymmetric powers over here. So you have asymmetric corporations giving you a little bit of a different starting bonuses, the income you get, the abilities you have. For example, this is a fun one over here. Once per round, you can simply gain the free action on all 3 cards in the card row. So you get the 3 actions, you don't discard the cards, you just get 3 new actions. That's a fun little thing to do. Over here, your orbital dynamics, you can have 1 more probe in space. So you're allowed to have 2 probes in space, or 3 once you unlock the bonus, and once per round, you can gain 1 move with up to 2 of your probes. Again, a fun way to shift up the way your special agents, your special corporation is going to act. We have Turing systems. When you research a computer tech, you gain 1 publicity. So whenever you research a computer technology, you gain a publicity. That doesn't seem that great, but once per round, you can choose any of the other 2 techs and use that effect as if you had researched it. So you don't get the immediate bonuses, but you can use an effect as if you had researched that technology, which gives you a lot of flexibility. That's going to be some of the corporations, but you have a whole bunch over here giving you different asymmetric powers and starting bonuses to the players. Speaking of starting bonuses, you also get these cards over here. You're going to be handed a bunch of these cards. You're going to be taking from these cards, choosing different ones, gaining the various bonuses, the top and bottom of these cards, in order to get different starting things on the board, probes in space. You know, you have a probe orbiting Uranus and all that stuff. Whatever it is, you have all these extra bonuses you're getting from these cards. So between the starting cards you get, between the corporations, it's supposed to compensate for that 1 reduced round of play that you otherwise would have. And then the last thing, let's go ahead and talk about the new alien race. Well, that's the last thing. The last thing would be there's more solo components, more whatever. But let's talk about what the new alien races bring. There's going to be a loose overview of them. This is the part where you can skip it if you don't want spoilers. I say that because, speaking for myself, I appreciate, like my first time playing Space Agencies, I shuffled up the new races. I specifically did that. And then I just had 2 show up. And I didn't know what they were going to do until they showed up because I didn't want to read in advance. So if you do want to save yourself that kind of information, then skip to the next timestamp, which will be my actual opinion on Space Agencies. But the 3 new factions, the 3 new races, we have Glyphids over here. Glyphids are basically going to come into play with their own separate little board over here. That's going to be this guy. Oh, it's upside down. You're basically going to be discovering tokens on the board from a variety of places. So when they get discovered, you place a whole bunch of tokens in a whole bunch of different areas. As you find those tokens, you're going to slot them into different areas, defining what a token is worth. So for example, if you grab a blue token, you can define that a blue token is worth a trace, or a blue a trace token to back to your supply, or alternatively is worth a publicity. and then in the future, when players cash those in, they're going to have to get that. So you basically define the rewards as you go through them. There's a lot more to it, but basically everything you do in the game is suddenly giving you extra rewards when you add glyphids. Then we have over here, we have the Arcos. The Arcos is basically going to be a ship, an abandoned ship that you're exploring. This is an interesting one where the layers of the ship are locked, and you can't get to them until you put extra traces in the extra spots below the alien race, which is usually a kind of like a dead spot. You don't really want to go there, but over here you do, because it's going to allow you to unlock access to various areas of the ship. So overall, this is a fun one just because of that. It also introduces another deck of cards over here of minor and major discoveries on these cards. You're going to be constantly getting minor or major discoveries as you play your cards. And then lastly, we have the Amoeba. The Amoeba over here, this is a fun one. Well, this one's interesting. We'll talk more about thoughts and opinions. But the Amoeba over here, they're going to introduce this board over here. You're going to have a bunch of tokens, and whenever you take one of these spots, you're going to take all the rewards in a sector, and then the rewards are going to spin. The center token moves counterclockwise, the other tokens move clockwise, so the rewards are constantly shifting as to what you're actually going to get. And then, of course, all the races come in with their own, decks of cards and all those things as well. That's going to be what the new content is going to have. Let's talk about my thoughts, my opinions, all of that stuff. SETI Space Agencies is an excellent expansion. I don't think it's the best ever, but it does do a pretty good job at what it's trying to do. It reduces the length of the game a little bit. I don't want to say it's significant, I think it's a little bit. The game still runs long. Yes, it's 4 rounds instead of 5, but you also have that more stuff you can do because of your faction powers. So overall, I still think it is certainly not a short game. It is slightly shorter, in my opinion. It does not drastically reduce the game length. It just adds more stuff, which I vaguely recall, maybe I was talking to someone from CGE, I don't remember, but I do vaguely recall having a conversation with someone at some point, it must have been someone with CGE, where I was talking about how I was optimistic about how it shortened the game length, and I think they mentioned that. I'm having this weird flashback now that they're like, well, you also do more, so only a little. This is a weird flashback. I could be completely making this up. Either way, my plays of the game so far have been a little shorter. It's fine. I mean, it doesn't really address my main complaint of SETI because it makes the game a little shorter, and my main complaint is that it is not as short as other games that let me have as much fun in the tableau that I'm building. Outside of that one complaint, though, I think maybe this... we'll give one more complaint. One more minor complaint, and then we'll get into all the good stuff. The other minor complaint is the corporations. I almost wish the asymmetric abilities, and this is me comparing it to Lost Ruins of Arnak, I guess, but I almost wish these corporations were a bit more diverse as far as the special advantages they gave. And don't get me wrong, they are fun, but some impact your gameplay more than others. For example, that one where you get to take the bonuses on all the cards in the card row, that's fun, but it's not nearly as impactful as having 3 probes in space. And honestly, even that, it's not a major shift to the way you're going to play. I like what they do, and I like the starting cards that you get. I almost wish they were a bit more powerful to distinguish themselves a bit more. As it stands, I felt that and you could argue pros and cons here, because if you push it too much, then you're forcing players in a direction, so you can make that argument instead. And I definitely didn't feel forced into a direction as I played through these corporations, because they're strong enough they give you extra perks. They're not so strong as to undo anything else that you would want to make progress towards. Those are my 2 small complaints, and the second complaint comes with the caveat that I recognize the counter complaint to it. Outside of that, though, I think SETI Space Agencies is excellent. 3 new alien races. First of all, I like them all. They have all been fun to play with. I will say I think that Arcos is my favorite from there. Then from there, it's tricky because I like the Amoeba puzzle over here, but it doesn't really interact with the general board the way that the Glyphids do. The Glyphids really interact with the board in a way that, even though the alien race itself, I prefer the Amoeba, the fact that the Glyphids put tokens everywhere, it kind of changes everything you're working towards, and I like that mid-game shift. And I do find even the base alien races from SETI have that same aspect. Some of them really interact with the board in a way that changes up the way you're interacting your whole game. Others have their own little mini puzzle going on, and I generally prefer the ones that interact with the board because it forces you to re-examine what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I like that mid-game shift. It makes the alien races so much more fun. So I'm going to give a tie between Glyphids and Amoeba because, again, I like this puzzle more. I like the board interaction more, but Arcos is likely my favorite from them. I just really like the aspect of investing into unlocking lower access points, and then also the cards you're flipping and getting strong rewards. Although you can't really guarantee what you're getting, it really feels like a sense of discovery as you play through it. But overall, alien races are great. I like the alien races from SETI. I like having 3 more. Jumping from 5 to 8 may not seem like a huge jump, but it means that you're playing with either 2 of 5 or 2 of 8. That's a big shift. There's much less chance that any one race shows up game to game. If you're playing SETI 4 or 5 times a year, you might only see each race once. That's a big deal, and games like SETI are the type. Some groups are playing it every single week. Other people, you're lucky if you get to the table 4 times a year. You don't have to interact with those races again. I mean, I guess you could because it's random, but overall, I really like the addition of the races. I like the corporations a lot. Despite my complaint that I almost wish they were more different, there's a lot of them. Again, a lot is relative, but again, depending how often you play SETI, it might take you a long time before you have an opportunity to play as each one of these. Like, I certainly haven't. Between our plays of it, I've played as some and seen a bunch more, but I still haven't interacted with a bunch of them. I'm still excited to dive into these. They're a lot of fun. The starting cards you get, they're a lot of fun. It just starts you off faster, and it kind of, even though the game length is not significantly reduced, I do think that you start off feeling like you can do a little more early on, which is great because, again, SETI's one of those games where your first round feels like you're really, really stifled into a corner, and while that's still true in space agencies, it feels slightly less so. Overall, as far as expansion rating goes, I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5. I grade expansions based on what I think they did for the base game, how well they operated there. To me, this is a 4.5 out of 5, but it does elevate my review of SETI from a 4.5 to a 5, meaning it does enough for SETI, and it has enough fun new elements that it takes SETI. I still have the complaint that SETI runs a little long, and I still feel that way even after multiple plays of space agencies, even after playing SETI enough times that by now I should have the engine going. I still feel SETI is a game that runs a little long relative to games that do similar things, but the satisfaction of that last round is always so much. Not just the last round, it's not just there, but the satisfaction of the engine you're building and what you're doing is very much present, and Space Agencies is a welcome expansion that does a good job of increasing the diversity of things you'll encounter and increasing your starting diversity, which is both fun things to have. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.